Hello, welcome to How to Read a Poem. Now, I've done Home is So Sad by Philip Larkin. I'm going to do a poem that you might see some similarities or differences to with that poem. It's called Rooms by Charlotte Mew. So, when you do your examinations, you need to compare poems. Think about how that poem by Philip Larkin has similarities and differences, can compare and contrast with rooms. Now, we've talked about in that poem, home, a room. That's not only a physical space, but also a repository of emotions as being inextricably tied to the life of the human owner. So we're going to see how these sub-themes weave themselves into room, maybe with a different emphasis, maybe with a similar emphasis. That's how we can look at the poems and we can think about the ways in which they speak to each other or respond to each other. So rooms. I remember rooms that have had their part in the steady slowing down of the heart. So the poet situates the poem in the distant past, and we know that through the tense have had. And this idea of memory, I remember rooms that have played their part in the steady slowing down of the heart, in the loss of passion. So memory is associated in the past with that dying of passion, with that cooling down of emotion. And the sounds of the poem mimic that idea of slowing down. Look at the second line, in the steady slowing down of the heart. The vowels give you that sense of heaviness. The vowels give you that sense of something literally slowing down, that steady slowing down. It's a process. It's not abrupt, it's gradual. But these rooms have had their part. So the poem is about these memories of loss, these memories of heartbreak, these memories of the gradual dying down of emotion. The room in Paris, the room in Geneva. So not really a specific room, but rooms that bring along with them that idea of place. The room in Paris, the room at Geneva. And of course, it might be an irony on the part of the poet to suggest Paris, of course, the stereotypical capital of love, of passion, but that room in Paris that involves not an outburst of passion, but the steady slowing down of emotion. So the room in Paris, the room in Geneva, the little damp room with the seaweed smell, and the ceaseless maddening sound of the tide. So the memory of the room now transits into the smell, into the sound of the things associated with the room, the locale of it, the things that might be outside. The little damp room with the seaweed smell. Of course, one theme in literature, as popularized in Proust's great novel In Search of Lost Time, one of the things there is that the smell of something small can evoke a whole wonderful novel that is associated with memory. So here, the poet wants you to think about this idea of the smell of the seaweed as associated with the steady slowing down of the heart and the ceaseless maddening sound of the tide. So the maddening sound of the tide, that impacts on the speaker, and it's ceaseless. It's something that sounds, it's something that's maddening. So the smell evokes memory, the sound of the tide also evokes memory, and all that is associated with a particular atmosphere of the room and what is associated with the room, what happens inside of the room. Rooms where for good or ill, things die. However, this line seems to suggest that things dying, we shouldn't put a sort of predetermined moral value on it. Sometimes it might be good that things die. Sometimes, yes, it's for the worse that things die. This is the natural course of life. Rooms where, for good or ill, something happened. A transition takes place. We moved on. Something has slowed down. But there is the room where we too lie dead. So now there's this transition from the rooms of the past. I remember the rooms that have had their part. Think about the tense here, that transition into the now. But there is the room where we too lie dead. So the poem now shifts in tone. It was more general, the room in Paris, the room in Geneva. Now it's become more specific, where we too lie dead. Almost paradoxical. How is the speaker lying dead? When the speaker is speaking, where we too lie dead. It might be a sort of death in life. It might be a sort of emotional death. Though every morning we seem to wake, and might as well seem to sleep again. So the form of emotional deadness continues in the present. Though every morning we seem to wake, yes, we are physically awake. We wake, we rouse from slumber, but it might just as well seem to sleep again. As we shall somewhere in the other quieter, dustier bed, out there in the sun, in the rain. So the poet looks at the emotional deadness of the present. The poet laments about the dying of love. Not only that physical deadness, but also that emotional deadness. And that emotional deadness in the present somehow looks towards the future, where we shall somewhere, it remains unspecific, so the future is to that extent undefined, in that other quieter, dustier bed. However, we know that the emotional deadness in the present is a presage of that ultimate deadness, that ultimate cessation of all things in that other quieter, dustier bed. Of course, the poet is referring to the grave. So the grave is quieter, the grave is dustier. It is out there in the sun, in the rain. It is not a confined space anymore. It is exposed to the elements. It is out there in the sun. It is out there in the rain. So the mood of melancholy, almost, which we see in the Philip Larkin poem, Home is So Sad, is also in that same emotional range of this poem, Rooms, as you are somewhere in the other quieter, dustier bed. So this poem takes us through the past, the present, and the future. All these indicators of time are linked not only by rooms, by the specific or not so specific locale in which the slowing down of the heart takes place. So that passage of time doesn't bring renewed joy in love. It's a process of atrophy. It's a process of slow deadening. As we shall somewhere in that quieter bed sleep together. All of us sleep together in death. But in a sense, that sort of passage to death has already taken place in the present and also in the past. So the poem evokes a mood, and that mood is sustained throughout the poem through various words, through the transitions in the verbs, and also in that persistent rhythm of death, of silence that seems to underlie the poem. So out there in the sun, in the rain, the poem ends on a quiet note, but also it's a quiet that suggests the ultimate end of everything, the ultimate end of love. This is how to read a poem. Thank you.